Hey, this is Matt. Once again, welcome back to another video. There's another paid request, this time for Daniel. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. And people go, well, what do you mean mispronounce it? Because it's spelled a different way. I haven't seen it spelled before, so I don't know if there's anything specific about it. Plus, I'm a dumbass. I've been a dumbass, and I'll still be a dumbass. But thank you so much for that. And for those interested in requesting pretty much any type of videos, topics, reactions, reviews, re-reviews, randomness, out of the blueness, whatever it may be, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. The idea could be a commentary, review, topic, ranking list, reaction, or whatever else may be, pretty much. Now, this is for a 2001 film called Hardball. Now, Hardball is a drama, sports, bit of comedy, little bit of Bad News Bears, but a little bit of other attributes. And it's a film that when it came out like very, very quickly after 9/11. Like literally it was in September of 2001 that it came out, like a few days or a week after. So I think it got #1 at the box office, but I don't know if it really made much money. And Keanu Reeves stars in it. Now, Keanu Reeves got nominated for a Razzie along with his performance in another film called Sweet November. He didn't deserve a Razzie nomination for this. I don't think his performance is as bad as critics make it out to be. When he does this speech at the end, I thought it was pretty damn good speech. Fairly emotional. Some people say manipulative, but I thought it worked for what its job was supposed to be. And overall, I didn't mind the film. I thought the film was a bit uneven at points, but I still thought it was a decent flick. I thought it was a decent movie where the kids were likable and or at times funny. Keanu, like I said, I don't mind his performance. If I want to say a weak performance from Keanu Reeves, I'll go to Knock Knock. I'll go to the recent Matrix film, Resurrections. And I'm a Keanu Reeves fan. I like the film Speed. I like the first 3 Matrix movies. I love the John Wick films. I like the first 2 Bill and Ted movies. Constantine is underrated. I think he did a decent enough job here. He plays a guy who has a gambling addiction, and from the get-go, he loses some money, and people are ready to beat him up, and he's like, "No one can tip my ass like I can." And he's like bashing his face against the wall or against windows and knocking himself out. So his character, because of his gambling crap, he needs to pay like $6,000 or they'll fuck him up. So he gets with another guy, and the other guy goes, "Well, I could get a job for you. You coach this team of 5th graders, and you get $500 a week." So Keanu Reeves doesn't really know what to do with it, but he deals with these kids who are dealing with, and that's one thing. When it's Keanu with the kids, working with the kids on the baseball field, and the way the kids talk, and they keep saying bitch, and Keanu's like, "Hey, can we cool it with the bitches? Can we cool with that?" And you have the different kids. You have the one kid who's sweet, but he's got an asthma problem. You have one kid who's like the captain of the team. You have the smallest kid named G-Baby, who's always talking and cussing, and he's definitely, of the kids, the standout. You have this one character named Kofi, who's the best player. You even have a very young Michael B. Jordan. He's not prominent in the film, and after a certain event, he disappears for a good chunk, and it appears like one more time, then never again. But yeah, Michael B. Jordan makes a very early appearance as one of the players. You have this one kid who loves to wear the Walkman, and he's a pitcher, and he does well striking people out because he's listened to Notorious B.I.G. "Hey, not a bit, Papa." I can't do it. I'm not good at that. And when it's that stuff, that's when the movie works the best. He's taking the kids out to pizza. He's trying to talk with G Baby, who's too young to be on the team. And he's like, well, can I still be here? Yeah, you can. Or, G Baby saying, oh, this is some weak ass bullshit. And the other coach is like, what'd you say? So this is some weak ass bullshit. And even Keanu repeats, he said, this is some weak ass bullshit. So I thought Keanu and the kids worked well together. And there's some nice emotion. Again, some people say manipulative. I thought because of the background where these kids come from, in a sad state of affairs, it made sense. Where the film falters is when it goes into either the gambling stuff that Keanu has to fix, or this little romance with Diane Lane. And I like Diane Lane. Diane Lane is a good actress. Was she in that film Unwatchable or God, there was a movie about a killer killing people on these streams, and the more people that watch, the faster this person dies. Untraceable? Maybe it was Untraceable? Unwatchable, yeah. You don't want to make a movie called Unwatchable, although it probably is. It's like, you really want to call your movie Unwatchable? So it's something like Untraceable or Unstoppable. That's the Denzel film. I can't remember, but she played Martha. What'd you say that name? In Man of Steel and Batman v Superman. Diane Lane's a good actress, and she plays a teacher. But the stuff between her and Keanu, it doesn't seem like there's much to it. It just seemed very... It felt like you didn't even need that to be a part of the film. Because it's very uninvolving, and there's just not much there to it. Like I said, there's not, other than they talk a few times. She goes up to him at one point, and he's like, well, you think you're better than me? Type of speech and spiel. There's not a whole lot going on with it. So it's like, well, why is this even a thing in the first place? It's like, well, we gotta have some type of love story. It's like, no, you don't. You really don't. And this is from the same director who did Ready to Rumble with David Arquette. He also did I think he did some work. What was the director's name? Was it Brian Robbins who did... Did he do... Yeah, he did Norbit, 1,000 Words, and Meet Dave. So he did 3 of the worst fucking Eddie Murphy films ever. If you like those films, that's cool. I've had people say, how do you hate Norbit? I'm like, well, teach their own then. I do hate Norbit for a lot of reasons. Because I think it sucks ass. And I think it's a waste of Eddie Murphy's talent. Yeah, Brian Robbins. These are the films he's directed. Good Murder, Varsity Blues, Ready to Rumble, Hardball, This Perfect Score, The Shaggy Dog, with Tim Allen. That was an awful film. Then Norbit, Meet Dave, and 1,000 Words. He hasn't directed anything since. I mean, I like Varsity Blues. I like Ready to Rumble for what it is. And this film I didn't mind. I would say I like those two more, but... And for I want to get the details for this. Dwayne Warren as G Baby, Brian C. Hearn as Andre, Michael Perkins as Kofi. The kids did a pretty good job. And the kids are part of the Chicago ABLA housing project. I want to get that right as well. September 14, 2001. And it did not make a lot of money. like I say, it got number 1 at the box office, but it wasn't much. It was, after 9/11, people were not really gung-ho to see anything in the theater at that point. And sorry, I know I want to get the details. Made $40 million. I think the budget was like $30 million. I don't know why. Well, I mean, there's a lot of things you don't think about that goes into a project. And yeah, I got a $9 million weekend for number 1. See, that's how low the box office was at that time. You'd have to be number 1 at the box office for the weekend, and you only made $9 million. So there you go. But the film itself, when it's dealing with his gambling stuff, I wouldn't say I was that interested. It wasn't really suspenseful. It wasn't scary. It wasn't funny. It's just a means to an end, I guess. And even then, he gets with his buddy, John Hawkes, which, if you remember from Dusk Till Dawn, the very beginning of the film, remember the owner of the store that gets a gun and shoots at George Clooney and Tarantino? That's the guy who plays his buddy in this. And with his help, they win this $12,000 bet so that he's able to pay off the money anyway. I mean, so it made me think, this didn't even need to be part of it, this whole gambling thing. Like, you could have easily had it where he's drunk because of something else, whether the death of his father, or whether maybe even the death of a kid, or something else, or just he's a drunk, alcoholism. And he bashed his head and he broke some shit. He's going to be arrested. But he's like, you know what? You could go to jail, but for community service, you need to teach these kids. And you're under parole. Like a parole program type of thing. Or not parole, but community service. That way, you could get out of this gambling shit that really was the least interesting part of the movie, and take that time and spend a little bit more on the kids. Just like the one kid who's got asthma, there's like one bit that he's going home and some people beat him up, but I thought then it would lead to maybe Keanu later helping him home and Keanu defending him, and Keanu, what the fuck you doing? You get out of here. And helping him up and helping him get home, this kid with asthma. That, okay, this is him alone, he gets beaten up, but now Keanu helps him. And then later on, maybe the other kids, they go home with him, and the kids stand up and help him out. But a lot of these kids, you don't really get much development. Like Andre and Kofi, other than they have a little bit of friction, and Kofi's like the best player, and he just tipped off, but then he comes back. But again, there's not a lot of, like, if you think of some of the development of the kids, even in like The Sandlot, is that rich development? But like The Sandlot, you still get to know the kids a bit more, spend more time with the kids in The Sandlot, like that type of stuff. It was more of just Keanu with those kids, and maybe more of him like teaching the kids. Because other than him going, alright, nobody calls anybody names, and he's hitting the ball a couple times, and then it seemed like quickly the kids got better, you don't really see Keanu really teaching them specifically, do this, do that, do this, do that. Again, that to me would have been more interesting. Maybe people go, well, it'll be too much like Bad News Bears. Well, true, but the gambling stuff and the Diane Lane teacher stuff was just kind of fell flat. And that's what I mean. Like, those Keanu and Diane Lane are good actors, in my opinion, but there's just not much for them in their interaction. There's just not much meat on the table, so to speak. And again, the last thing I'll say, the gambling stuff was I thought the weak ass bullshit, as this movie says. Now, when it's him interacting with the kids, like, oh, you get some uniforms, or takes him to Sammy Sosa, Chicago Cubs game, and you see the way the kids light up, and this is so special to them, and it captures the way, based on where they come from, how their eyes and their face light up at seeing this, and Sammy Sosa waving at them, or how Keanu, because the kid is told he has to take the headphones off and then he can't pitch, and then Keanu, the way he gets people in a, hey, remember Big Papa, 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 Papa. Number one, it's fun to see Keanu do that because it's outside of his comfort zone. It's not something you typically see from Keanu. But it didn't come off as corny either. It's okay, it's kind of nice. He's doing something to get the kid going, and the other kids on the field get going as well, and help him out to get in the mood of that song. Since, again, he can't listen to his headphones, so it helps him with the pitching. And, like, the kids, I didn't think they were bad actors. At all. I thought they were natural, and they worked well together, and they felt like a team by the end. Michael B. Jordan is Jamal, and he doesn't have much to do, and then he's kicked out because apparently his age. And then he disappears for a good chunk of it, and he again appears one more time, which I'll get to, and then you never see him again. And that's the thing, like, that's a character that you could have developed a bit more. Where maybe Keanu goes to see him, or sees his mother, and the mother's pissed, and it's like, well, I couldn't do anything about it. Like, the drama should not have been more of the gambling shit, and will he win this bet, and oh, we're celebrating. It should be more about him interacting with these kids who are dealing with these problems in the projects. And no, I'm not saying I am the white guy, I'm going to save everybody. But just being a decent guy wanting to help out. Doesn't give a shit what color you happen to be. Black, white, pink, purple people eater, whoop-de-doo. Because the kids and Keanu were, to me, the best parts of the movie. I like that when one of the games are playing, you're hearing DMX, up in here, y'all gonna make me lose my mind, up in here. And it seems like the movie, on IMDb it says rated R, but it seems like at times it's still fighting whether it wants to be rated R or rated PG-13. Although, G-Baby does cuss a bit. But even like the DMX, like they use like the cleaner version of that song, but then it's like, and yeah, it's fighting between like R, PG-13 type of thing. That was a bit weird. I thought the best part of the movie was actually the third act of the film. I thought the third act of the film, weirdly enough, when you got rid of, you're away from the Diane Lane, love story that was only like 5 minutes of the movie, total, and the gambling stuff is like taken care of and not a thing, and the last third of the film is just the baseball stuff and also the hardships in the Chicago projects. And I don't know how else to say without spoilers, so spoilers starting now, spoilers. They're playing a game, in the middle of it they cut away, and I'm like, I wonder why they're cutting away. The game's not over. And then you find out why. Two of the kids are going home. Some people come out. One of them, one of the people is Jamal, Michael B. Jordan's character. So you find out that because when he was kicked out of the baseball, he just joined a gang. Maybe a little bit more development of that would have been interesting, but it's not that movie. There's a shootout, a ricochet, and the G-Baby character, the little kid, the smallest kid, dies. and then there's a funeral. And this speech alone is why I don't think Keanu deserved a Razzie. Again, maybe it's for Sweet November, then just say Sweet November. Not for this movie. This speech alone, to me, showed that he did a decent job acting. Where he's explaining the game, and then it cuts back to the game, and the kid hit the ball, and I thought the way the music... If this was manipulative, then you know what? It was done effectively. Because I think Keanu, he sold the scene well. He taught in church about what this kid meant to him, and how he was so excited when he hit the ball, and I swear he lifted the world in that moment. I thought that the music, it was subtle. Again, the performances were on par. I mean, I think Keanu did good. Again, you want to say bad Keanu performance? Again, Knock Knock, I'll give you. Matrix 4, I'll give you. Even Bram Stoker's Dracula back in the day, I'll give you. Because I don't think he's good in that movie. And I'm a big Keanu Reeves fan, but no, I don't think he's good at Bram Stoker's Dracula. But I don't think he was as bad as critics made it out to be in this movie. I really don't. And then there was a nice scene where he's talking to one of the mothers, and then he talks to the kids, hey, listen, you don't have to play tomorrow. He said, what the hell are you talking about? You don't quit? Well, you guys still want to play? Hell yeah! Okay then. And they don't play, you don't see the championship game. That's not what's important. You find out they win, in the spoilers, you find out they win, but the important is that Keanu has this thing where he says, I'm blown away by your ability to show up. Like, after someone they knew died, they're still willing to come here and play for their friend's memory. Some may say that maybe you could say the movie has an inconsistent tone because of that. But that's what I mean. Like, okay, people want to compare it to Bad News Bears, and that's why you can't just have Keanu with this team. But because of where they're at, and because of the location they're at, and because you have this gang activity and all this stuff, and sad but real life stuff like this happening, that's the difference between it and, say, Bad News Bears. That's what makes the difference. And you can still have Keanu more with the kids, and then maybe some funny or some heartfelt, or both scenes where he's interacting with the families of each of these kids, or getting to know their lifestyle, or like this one kid in class talk about how father, that book is bull, that book is BS. He doesn't say it that way, but fathers, when they leave, they don't come back. I want Keanu to develop that bit more. Maybe like Keanu, his character, he didn't have a father either, or his father left him either, so that's something they have in common, or something in between. But again, that type of stuff isn't embellished more. Because you gotta go back to stupid gambling shit, or try to force in this love story with the teacher that's not really needed. Just not every fucking film needs a love story. It's like, hey, it's Keanu Reeves, and this is after The Matrix, so he's a big star, and gotta have some type of thing, because Carrie Ann Moss, Trinity, and all this other, Speed, Sandra Bullock, so we gotta have him with a girl, love stories. Like, I like Diane Lane. You can have them talking about these kids, and of course, if they did that, maybe people would go, it's a white savior movie, so you can't do that either. It's like, well, overall, I did like it, because, again, the kids were good acting from the kids. The baseball scenes were pretty decent. I liked some of the soundtrack, like Notorious B.I.G. and DMX. Rest in peace, DMX. I liked a lot of his songs, especially Up in Here was a good one in this. My favorite is Etched Gonna Give It To You, from Cradle to the Grave. And yeah, Keanu Reeves I don't think was nearly as bad as people made out to be. And overall, I thought this was a decent film. I mean, I would give it at least a 3 out of 5. At least a 3 out of 5 stars. I don't think it's as bad as some people on IMDb made it out. It's 2 out of 10. It's 4 out of 10. I'm like, I've seen a lot of worse sports movies and stuff of that nature. I think if you're a Keanu Reeves fan or if you're into these baseball type of movies, yeah, I don't think it's as good as The Sandlot. I would give maybe like the original Bad News Bears. I put that above this. I didn't. Some people say it's inconsistent, manipulative, but that stuff didn't bother me as much as others. Yeah, overall, I didn't mind the film. I thought it was decent flick. Maybe this wasn't the most perfect director, but I guess, hey, he did Sports with Varsity Blues, and he did a little bit of comedy with Ready to Rumble, and that was with wrestling, so I would have been more interested if Richard Linklater worked on this film other than that Bad News Bears remake that he did with Billy Bob Thornton, which I remember not hating. I remember not hating that film, but I'm just a Richard Linklater. Maybe he could have done a little bit more smoother polish on this, or even. It's funny. I'm watching. I'm looking at this because I just bought this. F. Gary Gray. Him or John Singleton. John Singleton. I mean, I'd give him a shot. He knows how to do drama. Boys in the Hood, may he rest in peace. Give him a chance, a little bit of. I don't know if he ever did a comedy. But this is like drama with comedic stuff. John Singleton would have been interesting. Or again, F. Gary Gray. Since he worked on comedy on Friday. Maybe they would have been better fits as director than the guy would go on to do Norbit. But anyway, with that said, I still think it was a decent film. Thanks for watching. Take care. We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.